catchy, right?
That's right, it's clobbering time as our first Vanguard of the game has dropped, and that is Ben Grimm the Thing. He is here, he is stout, he is strong, he's a lot of fun to play. He feels kind of Groot-ish and Hulk at the same time, and I'll explain that when we really dive into the tips and tricks, but I think a lot of people who enjoy playing Vanguard are enjoy playing the Thing, as his abilities make him a very solid tank, and especially with his 700 health. Alright, let's take a look at Ben's abilities, and his first one is to be Rocky Jab. That is his left click, and that is his main punch, and he just goes clobbering. Speaking of clobbering time, that is his ultimate. Use immense power to launch all enemies in front of you in the air, and he basically just sends it a giant shockwave. His left shift is called Yancey's Free Charge, which is basically he just runs through and slams everyone and then drops a giant earthquake, continually charging forward, launching up enemies, leaving behind his zone at that final position that prevents the use of mobility abilities, which is kind of cool that he locks you down at the end of that charge. His E is called Embattled Leap, jump toward your ally and apply damage reduction to both of you. So basically, he jumps at a teammate and gives him an earth shield. His right click is called Stone Haymaker, deliver a devastating heavy blow. It looks like it can be charged up. We'll try that out though with the shooting range. His passive is called Unyeeting Wheel, immune to launch up, knockback, and other displacement effects. That's pretty ridiculous. As a passive, like you don't have to do anything. You just get basically immovability. His first team ability is called Cooperative Comrades, and this is the shield that we saw with Reed. And then his second was called Cosmic Fastball, which is basically just chucking Wolverine, which is the same thing as the Hawk one. So, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Let's take a look at him actually, though, in the shooting gallery. See these billies in motion.
Well, it ain't easy being this strong or this handsome.
So we're going to start off with his left flick.
For.
Just throw punches. Does a little bit of damage, nothing too exciting. Now we're going to try his right flick and see if there's a charge of effect or not. No, it just looks like a giant punch because I just took my finger off the mouse. I didn't have to hold it to charge it. And wham. Looks like you can 3-kill. All right. Next thing is going to be, you can see the E button is showing at the teammate. We can jump to him, and then they both get rock shield. One for Ben, one for the bot. Looks like you get 2 of them. You can throw another one on here. He's just rocked out. Pretty easy peasy. All right, then our L shift, we're going to get position. We'll jump in here, and then we're going to run through and smack everyone around. And then finish here, and then as you can see, that's area of effect where no one can do mobilities. And then, of course, finally will be his ultimate. It's clobbering time. Of course, he has the passive. He also has his 2 team ups. It's got pretty good range, which isn't bad. But it looks like you want to try to get as close to him as possible when you're doing it, because as you saw, it only made it to about here, which is about 50 yards. So it's not terrible, but it's not great. And that is Ben's abilities in practice, and then we're going to talk about tips and tricks next. First question everyone's going to ask is, Ben going to change the meta of tanks? The answer is no. He is good. He is solid in some things. He has problems against flying characters. And I'm worried that we're going to go into a flying meta for DPS, which could be a huge deficit to people who want to play the thing. So let's talk about it. He is not a dive character. He does have that charge, but it doesn't give him the mobility to get in and out of situations like you're going to have with Thor or Venom or Captain America. But what he does have is the ability to have a high health and be able to kind of get himself out of situations, generate shields by jumping to his teammate. He has that ability to, with Sue, to activate a shield, so he has good survivability. He's not as good of a tank as either the big 3, Magneto, Doctor Strange, or Hulk. He is probably better than Groot in certain situations. He doesn't have the walls, but he has such good survivability, and he will be absolutely murked by every Wolverine known to man. So let's get into what we talk about for Ben himself. Now the thing is, the first Vanguard we've got added to the games in Season One, these are not going to change the meta like Sue was when she was the first strategist added in the first part of Season 1. Now, he's coming this Friday. I've logged quite a few hours already on him, and he is a ton of fun to play. But he strikes me more as a secondary tank. I don't think I can feel confident going out there and solo tanking with the thing. Where he excels at, though, is keeping his teammates alive. So if you have DPS or healers where you can throw that shield and then charge back into battle, it does actually do a good job keeping anti-dive abilities on your strategist, which is where I might see him as excelling. Because as I started getting a rhythm with the thing, I've noticed that if I could jump to my strategist, give them the shield, it kept them alive longer to either heal themselves or escape from dive DPS and dive tanks. And I think that might be the part where he excels over everyone else, is letting your back line stay alive. Now, he's not going to be back there, but he has an ability to jump pretty far to them, which I wish he had more ability to jump like Hulk, so he could get in and out of jams himself. His damage is okay. He doesn't seem to punch nearly as hard as Hulk, but that big slam can do some damage if you have someone 25% or lower, especially a switchy like a strategist or even some of the leaner duelists. If you have him low, you hit him that big one. His ability to negate actual movement is good, but the problem is, and I have to work on my settings, I can't seem to get where I like the feel of his charge, because it gets a little bit wobbly and then you're kind of stuck in a corner, or you're trying to get back to where you need to and you don't feel like you have the right control over it. So I feel like you're probably going to want to adjust your settings of his charge as much as you possibly can to get a good feel, and probably going into the practice range and working with tinkering that might be the best move for you. He does have a nice base pool of health, 700 health. It puts him in a really, really strong point for a tank to really absorb a lot of damage. And if you have Invisible Woman with you, you're going to have that team-up ability for the shield, the same that Reed does. And you're also going to have your 2 rock shields by jumping to your teammates. So he does have a ton of survivability. Now, I think his ult is very underwhelming. And it feels a lot like Groot's ult, where you kind of suck everyone in and they're locked in place, and then you do some DPS. In this case, you kind of hit them with that rock smash. It does like an earthquake ability. It pops them up, and then when they land, they're frozen. So you can do a lot of damage. Unfortunately for Ben, he doesn't have a big hit. So you want to coordinate with your DPS when because they're all sitting ducks when they're doing it. So he's got a good ult for support, but it's not a good ult for him to get kills. Now, if you do hit low people, you're going to get some kills. That is very similar to Groot in that fashion. And that's why I mentioned the Groot feel to it, because that's where I feel like it's kind of like Reinhardt hammer down, but you don't have that big strike like Reinhardt. So you're going to only have that big punch, and you might hit someone with it, but it's not going to do a ton of damage. So you want to make sure you're coordinating with your duelist or other tanks. If you have a dive tank like a Thor, know when you're going to pop that, so that way they have that ability to pick off those frozen members. I do like playing him. He is fun. He is enjoyable. I don't feel like he's a bad tank, so I don't want it to sound like that as we're coming out of the gate. But I don't think he is a top tier tank. He is not Sue, where she basically instantly moved in the top echelon of strategists. He's going to muddle in the middle. So if you're a group player, you're going to naturally like playing him. He's going to feel very similar with the lack of movement. And he's also going to feel very similar with the way his ult works. So you will be able to judge that very well of when you want to pop that to try to negate things. He does have good survivability, but the problem is his damage is very low and his mobility is even worse. Yes, like I said before, you do have the charge, but the charge is a little wonky and it needs to be refined. I really like playing the thing. I think he has good opportunity as probably the best off tank. Like if you have a Magneto or a Strange main tanking for you, he can cause some trouble, because he's going to keep that point from moving. He's going to hold down anchor points, and he's going to survive. He has a great ability to do that. But if he's the only tank, and there's the new flying meta, which I highly expect to come with Storm and Johnny Storm paired together, it's going to be very problematic for him to really do any kind of damage and get pissed. Like, I did not want to talk about him like this. I was really, really hoping that when I got a chance to play hours of the thing, that I would be able to come and say, yeah, he is basically like Invisible Woman. He's going to reset some hours. It's not the case. With the Thor buff, and of course, even with those slight nerfs to Magneto and Doctor Strange, he still doesn't feel as good as any of them. It's a problem. The problem is he's just kind of okay-ish at everything. And when you're a character that's okay at everything, you don't excel at anything. And that's where we find the Thing, is he's very, very solid. Solid like a rock, ha ha ha, but he doesn't excel at anything. And he is going to make you very happy as an off-tank, but if you were in a meta where you're solo tanking, he's just not going to be viable in my opinion. Now, I do think that the Thing has great synergy with certain characters, like all the members of the Fantastic Four, because once you have that shield, you do have a really good opportunity to get out of jam. Even if you charge in and use your Quake and you are able to kind of get out of situations because you can pop the shield right after, and you're getting all that health back, which he has a very large pool of health to start with, so it makes him have pretty good survivability, enough to jump back to one of your supports that you can get yourself healed all the way back up and then kind of tank again. He is a very good, he might be the best off tank in the game. He's not a dive tank, he's not a main tank, but your off tanks, which, like, when you look at characters like Groot, that's kind of where he falls into. He's a good off tank. He can main tank because the walls will allow him, but he more excels in the off tank situation. This is where you're going to find Ben, where Ben might just be a better version of Groot. And that is, unfortunately, where we're going to find him. He does have the ability to really survive a lot of damage, and it's going to make him good against those smaller, squishier DPS, like, say, a Hawkeye or a Black Widow. But, like, if you're going against Wolverine, he's going to be absolute fodder. With that high health pool, he just gets absolutely annihilated. And I had that happen to me a bunch playing him. Is once Wolverine pops out all, or he's in rage mode, it's over. It's just like, there's nothing you can do, even with popping all your counters. He just rips right through. Now, I will say the Thing is a character that you're going to enjoy playing in tighter spots because he does have that ability to get in and out of damage. He does have all these insta-shield kind of abilities, especially when he's paired with Invisible Woman, that makes him very hard to kill, other than Wolverine. Wolverine's just going to annihilate him. Even characters that should get on top to do a lot of damage, unless they're ulting, you're probably going to survive it. The only problem is that's going to be more melee and range-based characters that don't fly. So Iron Man, Human Torch, and Storm are going to be a problem for him. And if you're going against a Gamma-based Iron Man or Storm with Johnny Storm, you might not even want to pick him. You might want to swap off. And I hate to say that because it's hard to say that a brand new character already has hard counters, but that is going to be the case. So when you're going against the Thing, you can pretty much, because he has no ability. He doesn't have that jump like Hawk does, or the fly like Doctor Strange does to get up to those characters. He basically only has that hop to your own teammate. Now, you could try hopping to an Iron Man or a flying character if you want, but they have to be basically right on top to get any damage in. So it's going to be very hard to coordinate that. Only situation where that probably would work well is if you have an Iron Fist, but that's not going to show up in higher elos anyway. But if you have an Iron Fist that's fighting flying characters, you could hop your shield to him, shield yourself and Iron Fist, and get up there. I did do that a couple of times, which allowed me to get some kills on a Storm, but the problem is it's going to be very situational. You don't have any control over that because you need a character already on top of them for you to get there. And that's the problem he has with his mobility. Now, I will say this. I think he is probably C tier coming out of the box, maybe B- tier at best. And he is a lot of fun. His skins are really good. The trench coat skin is one of the most fun ones, and I'm absolutely going to pick it up. But will I say that he is going to shake up the meta? He is absolutely not. I have put hours into him. I've tried to see every way to make him a viable solo tank, and it just doesn't seem to be there is one. So you're going to have to be second tank with Thing. or you're going to have a comp that works really well where you're not getting hard dipped by Wolverines or flying characters who main tank solo. This is what we're looking at with the Thing. He is a lot of fun. He has great voice lines. He feels good to play. He feels like a lesser version of Hulk, though. So if you're a Hawk main, you're going to be able to, and someone takes your Hawk from you, you're going to be able to transition to Thing very easily as a secondary tank. But as a Vanguard, he's just kind of middle of the road. And unfortunately, that is going to be the breakdown for Thing. He is a little underwhelming in certain aspects because, like I said before, he's just kind of okay to good at everything, but there's nothing he really excels at other than defending your own strategist with shield from diving Vanguards or diving duelists. There's the breakdown. Probably not what you wanted to hear if you really want to dive into be a Thing main. But like any other character in this game, there is a possibility to just play them. You can always find a way around things, and maybe comps will work out better where you can get not so hard dip. You're going to have a lot of fun playing him, but he probably won't become your main in any facet. I'm sorry, guys. I hate to break it down that way, but there it is. I appreciate you guys hanging out there to watch the video, take advice, look into what the Thing is capable of. And as always, thank you for watching, and later, mates.